Here's to you, dear listeners, and welcome back to another episode of Metal Gear Monday's Revengeance. This is an interview episode with Ryan Payton, who had worked on Metal Gear Portable Ops as well as Metal Gear Solid 4, but also has an indie game studio, Camouflaj. With me today is Tori Cortez. Say hi, Tori.
Hi, Tori.
And Alessio. So what's up, y'all?
Hey.
So that was a fun interview.
Yeah, this is a fun
Indeed.
interview that has not started for the listener yet, but has started for us. This is Schrodinger's interview.
Yeah.
It is
Is
both
it really there?
not conducted and conducted at the same time.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun, and you'll learn pretty quickly into the interview, but it's going to be a trilogy of interviews with Ryan Payton sort of sprinkled throughout the Portable Ops season, which is really cool of him and really exciting for us.
Yeah. Talking to Ryan every time is amazing. I love talking to this guy. I'm so happy that Ryan was able to come and be on the show. And thank you guys for not only allowing me to continue to conduct interviews, but joining me on the interview.
Absolutely. It was a real treat to talk to Ryan and gain some of his inside perspective from putting these games together and kind of what the culture is like. So I feel like I have learned quite a bit today.
Yeah. A little inside baseball is actually the first time that we've done a trio interview with this configuration of hosts. So please be kind if you notice any hiccups. But I thought we did great, everybody. I thought it was a really good interview. There were quite a few like exclusive bombshells in this interview.
More than I expected.
Yeah, so brace for that. And yeah, I guess before we cut into the interview, is there anything else you guys wanted to mention at the top, or any plugs or anything, since we do those usually before the jump?
You got anything, Tori?
No particular plugs. Just want to say I'm really excited to speak with Ryan again, and I think we've got a really exciting season planned for you listeners. So stick with us.
Awesome. Well, cool. Without further ado, here is Ryan Payton, everybody. Hey, everybody. So we are here, Tori, Warren, and myself, speaking with Ryan Payton, who is going to be an amazing resource for Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops conversation, but also somebody who we just really want to catch up with because we had an amazing conversation last year. I can't believe it's been a year, Ryan. How have you been?
I know. It feels like, actually for me, it feels like many years. 2020 will do that to you. But yeah, it's awesome to be back, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's I was thinking about it before I was getting ready for the recording this morning. I don't know if you know this or not, Ryan, but since we last spoke, Kojima put out a game. Shenmue 3 came out, which no one thought would. Final Fantasy 7 Remake came out, which no one thought would. We're living in a plague, and we're in a new console generation. It's just crazy. Like everything, I don't know. Everything feels like
a lot
accelerated.
has transpired, and even selfishly, just for the company that I have the honor of running, Camouflaj. We shipped our second game, Marvel's Iron Man VR, for PlayStation VR, which that came out in July, and it feels like it came out like a year and a half ago.
Yeah, it's madness. One of the things I also wanted to catch up on was shortly after we released our first interview, Sam and myself actually had the pleasure of interviewing Jennifer Hale. And then Jennifer Hale was at New York Comic Con, which I decided to go to. And also I moved to New York since we last spoke, which is crazy.
Okay, cool.
And while I was at New York Comic Con wandering around, I happened to look up and see you standing on stage talking about Iron Man VR.
That's right. Yeah, that was man, that must have been back in October last year.
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, how did the game release go? How did the post launch go? How did Iron Man VR go?
Yeah, so it was just a crazy project, and from beginning to end. And it's amazing that the game's out there. It's hard for me to believe, but I guess the short version of the story is that the team is really proud of what we built. we tackled so many challenges, as you can imagine, with that massive IP, with like fledgling technology like VR, and we just set out to do something really really big, full campaign and big action, all in VR. It was really really challenging, and the game came out, and it didn't hit like the review scores on every site that we had hoped for, and we got knocked for a couple of things that I think are completely legitimate. But the nice thing about it is that like the boomerang is kind of coming back around to us, and we are got nominated for best VR game at Game Awards. We just won a number of different awards just recently, so I really love the fact that our team is going off on the holiday break with a lot of good recognition for the incredible work that they did on the project.
That's awesome. And you guys also had Republique, I know, has a VR mode. Did you guys do that internally, or was that handled by another developer?
We did that. It was a kind of a break between internal and then also our development partners out in New York named Darkwind. So yeah, it was a really good way for us to kind of dip our toe into VR. And then, but we really had no idea what we're doing, even after shipping a VR version of Republique, because again, Iron Man was just like such a different beast. And one of the really challenging things that I've learned over time is that making video games in and of itself is really difficult, but not being able to build off of your past successes and your past technology makes it even more difficult. And that's one thing that for example, Metal Gear had going for it for a long time, right? Is that we kept leveraging like the previous learnings and technologies and features and tools. And with Iron Man VR, for example, we didn't have any of that stuff, right? And we didn't really have a blueprint either for like what a great Iron Man game would be. So it was just challenge stacked on top of challenge, on top of challenge. And despite all that, I think the team really, really did deliver a game that's really, really great.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah. Did you have any favorite memories from the development? Just as far as like, I don't know, crazy, surreal. I mean, it's a huge IP, so I imagine that alone has got to be very exciting. But were there any like specific memories from the development that stand out?
Yeah, a lot of them. I'm trying to think of like pick a good one for you, but obviously the one that the story that I tell a lot, which is how we got the project, just working on a prototype, trying to prove it out in VR, and packing into the back of a rental van and driving from Seattle all the way down to LA to show it to Marvel and try to convince them to allow us to do this project, even though they told us that they would never give us this project. But we still made that prototype, and we still made that trip, and we made that pitch, and we got it. And that was one of those moments where you're just laughing and hugging, and it was just an amazing moment. And then the other memory that comes to mind for me is maybe a little more on the difficult side was just watching everything very quickly change around the office around March timeframe of this year, when the first North American COVID cases were happening just down the street from us in Seattle, actually at Kirkland, Washington, and watching very quickly how that was going to impact development, and how the fear that went into the team, and having to negotiate a brand new schedule with Sony while we're trying to figure out how everybody's going to work remotely, all while we're actually supposed to be gearing up for a gold master submission. That is something that I don't think I'll ever forget.
Oh my God.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds incredibly challenging on top of the already challenging task of putting together a video game.
Yeah.
So in terms of where we still are in 2020, even though we're nearing the end of it, do you have any projects that are upcoming for you? And are those going to look any different, because of where we are as a country, or anything to say on that?
Well, yeah, we're still figuring out what we're doing next. But we're still experimenting in VR, which is really great. I'm really happy for the team, because they have a lot of passion, myself included, for virtual reality. We feel like the best days for VR are definitely up and coming. And so, yeah, that's really where the team has been focused its efforts on. But we don't really have like a very extremely clear picture about what the next project is, but we're getting there.
Awesome.
Nice. I wanted to ask Ryan, because you mentioned the VGAs specifically, which, like, congrats on the nomination. That's awesome.
Thank you.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, Ryan and his team.
Thanks. Thank you.
But I'm also, and every one of our Discord users are probably rolling their eyes as I say this. I'm also like the loudest VR supporter in our community of listeners.
Oh, yeah, nice, thank you.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, obviously, so like Half-Life Alyx was nominated for best VR game, which it won. But I was going to ask, I mean, with all of the awesome VR titles that are coming out, whether or not it's Valve or it's you guys or even like Oculus Studios or whatever, with all these titles coming out, I mean, is it still frustrating that like VR games get relegated to their own nomination, or I don't know, like what are your thoughts on like VR as niche within niche, or is it something that is going to become a little bit more integrated into gaming as a whole, as opposed to being like a subset?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that, because I think it's a really interesting question and something I think about a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when we started Camouflaj almost 10 years ago now, the goal was to make great games that have a meaningful message intertwined, but also games that are enjoyed by as many people around the globe as possible. And that's why we shipped Republic initially on smartphones, right? But then going from there, and because of some business necessities, we found ourselves just working in VR, not because it was our part of our master plan. And that really butted up against our company ethos about having our games be played by as many people as possible, because it's still fledgling technology. VR hasn't hit mainstream, as we all know. And so that's something it's been difficult for me to wrestle with. But the thing that gets me up in the morning, and I think really motivates our team, is that we're big believers in the future of VR, and we want to be, if like one of the best, if not the best, virtual reality game developers in the world. And I don't think you could do that just by deciding one day, 5 years from now, when VR is presumably bigger, that you're going to be the best VR developer out there. There's so much technology and learnings that come into play. So this being having already shipped 2 VR games, I think our team is really well versed in it. And the fact that this is, like, for example, Iron Man VR is the first full end-to-end VR game we've ever shipped, and that it got nominated for best VR game is like a really great accomplishment. And so in a roundabout way, because I like to take the hard path in life, I'm very motivated to help push VR forward, to help make it a mainstream phenomenon, to really help push that medium so it provides gaming experiences and storytelling experience that no other medium can do. And when we get to that success, we can look back and say we were part of it, even when it wasn't cool to do it, even when it was really difficult, as opposed to coming into it late. So it's a long-term viewpoint. We're very dependent on the future of VR. Obviously, we're very dependent on companies like Sony and Facebook and HTC and Valve, who are the ones that are really pushing forward that medium. So as long as they're pushing forward and they need content, like, we're going to continue to try to make the best games we can.
You heard it here first, folks. Camouflaj are VR hipsters. They got into it before it was cool.
Exactly. Although I think like the real hipsters are the guys who are playing it in like those old school electronic stores back in the 80s, where you had to put that huge thing on your head and pay like $50 to play with like the original VR stuff. Those are the real hipsters. I bow down to those guys.
Yeah, I'll never forget being in like a shopping mall in Gainesville, Florida in the 90s and seeing like the huge rigs with like the circular like belt thing and the toaster on their heads. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. Those are the real cool people. I'll never be able to claim that up.
So Ryan, you mentioned just, I guess by default, always taking the path of more resistance. And I have to imagine developing a VR game would be a bit more challenging, or at least have some unique challenges, as opposed to developing a console game, for example.
Right.
Are there any of those challenges that come to mind to you?
Yeah, developing for virtual reality is just so different. You have to rethink so many different things that come so easily. I was talking about this with the team back when we were developing Marvel's Iron Man VR, about how if you have an opportunity to play the game, we have these really great moments that we call superhero actions, where players will fly up to a door, right? These massive door, like mining doors, and then they can put their hands and like kind of fit within like the little crevice, and then use their strength to slowly open up this massive, 3-ton door, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it feels great and it looks great, and it's some of the magic of virtual reality. But the thing is that action I just described will take the team weeks, if not months, to perfect.
Sure.
Because there's so many things that could go. Where's the player going to put their hands? How's the effects work? Like, how do we make it feel like you're actually moving something with weight? Versus if we were to do that in a flat screen game, if it was a PS4 or PS5 game, for example, what that interaction would most likely be is you walk your character up to that position, you hit a button, and then it'll play back an animation. Now you
Sure.
can maybe add some kind of like quick time event elements to it, right, to make it feel like the players are doing it themselves, right? But it's on a whole other scale in terms of how you have to do these things in virtual reality, which is a big reason why I talk about tools, because as we're developing our games, we're creating those tools and that knowledge base, so it's going to become easier over time. But we're really on the forefront, so yeah, we have the distinct pleasure of like having to create everything from scratch, basically.
Sure. Well, I've got to
Jesus.
imagine it would be really rewarding to solve that. How do you make it look and feel like I'm lifting this 3-ton door, right?
Yeah, it's funny. I'm actually playing, of all things, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time right now at home.
Hey,
Excellent.
It's part of my great shame that I've never finished that game, even though I've attempted to do that. So
What?
I'm going to do it this time around. I know, like, I'm sorry. Like, if your listeners want to turn off right now and say bad things to me on Twitter, I totally respect
no.
that. But and the reason I bring it up is because, sure, is it a little clunky compared to the games these days? Yes, but if you look back at what they did and what they innovated on, because there was very little, like there were very few blueprints to create a game like that. It's incredible what they did with the jump system, how you can assign different items to different buttons onto the on-screen UI, and just countless other things that they just innovated on. And so, and I'm not saying necessarily that, although this could be a fun headline, right? That Marvel's Iron Man VR is the Ocarina of Time of VR. That would be pretty cool. But I have to say that, like, our team was sitting there scratching their heads, like, how are we going to do this stuff? Because nobody's ever done it before. And that's really fun, nerve-wracking, frustrating, exciting, all tied into one, basically.
I bet.
That's crazy. Speaking of old video games, I feel like I have to ask, I have to follow up from a thread that we left dangling forever ago. Does Yu Suzuki still sleep on your couch, Ryan?
Well, he never slept on the couch, although maybe he did if he was, because he just had a boredom, but hanging out with me. But he was on my couch, and Yu Suzuki and I are still very close friends. In fact, we have a call later today.
Ooh, that's awesome.
That's awesome.
Is on a new project that he's on right now. Yes.
Very nice.
That's so exciting. So, Ryan, I got to say, with the movie news for Metal Gear Solid sort of being a thing with Oscar Isaac and Jordan Vogt Roberts directing, are you excited for it? Do you have any like wild speculation, anything that you feel about it? Do you even think it's going to be good?
I think it's going to be good. I think that I think clearly a lot of care has been put into the planning for the film, and having Oscar Isaac as the lead, I think, is a great selection. I'm just, as a fan, I'm just really excited. I'm really happy for all those who are involved, especially behind the scenes that have been behind this for so long. I mean, put this in perspective, right? I was working very, very tangentially on the Metal Gear movie project when I was working at Konami.
Sure. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And that was back in the mid 2000s. So yeah, long time coming. Really excited for it.
That's crazy. Quick question. When you say you were working tangentially on the Metal Gear movie, can you tell us more about your involvement on that?
Thank you. I was going to ask that.
Yeah, it was. Let's see here. I was helping with. It was very early incubation, ideation work, and I wasn't a part of the meetings with Hideo and the film people. Although I was just helping with supporting materials, reviewing documents, helping answer questions that the film studios had about various characters, and we were just it was very exploratory. And then when I was visiting Los Angeles for voiceover work for Metal Gear, I would stop by the like Sony studios and talk with some of the film executive producers, and we would just talk about Metal Gear, what would make a great film. But again, it was all more off the record and just kind of catching up and stuff like that. I was not like an influential member of that movie team by any stretch of the imagination.
Sure. Yeah, I figured your movie project was the ending cutscene of Metal Gear Solid 4.
Yeah, it felt like that for sure. Yeah, or the whole that whole game, if you will, right? I mean, it was many hours of cutscenes, right? Definitely movie length.
So I guess we can get a little inside baseball, but when it comes to Metal Gear Solid games, and I know you had worked on a few yourself, we have like all these rumors with Blue Point. Potentially doing a remake. I mean, everything's sort of up in the air as of right now. Are you like, do you have a favorite Metal Gear Solid title that you sort of have before you started working on, or maybe like, do you have anything that you want to get on to work on your own?
Well, I guess I'll start with your question about Blue Point, and obviously I don't have any insider information. Even if I did, I'd have to be very careful about that. But totally I truly don't. And it's as years go on, I'm more and more separated from just knowing what's going on within Konami, for example, because people leave and we get older, and I just I've got my own world now, right?
Yeah.
But that being said, if Blue Point were to remake Metal Gear Solid, I think that would be an incredible experience. I think they would do a great job with that. I desperately want that game. And in fact, I was just up late last night playing Demon Souls, the version that the PS5 version that Blue Point developed, with a coworker of mine, just having a great time. And man, that they just did an incredible job. And they have a real reverence and respect for I think Japanese creators, which is why I think that they would be a perfect development partner for that game. But to answer your other question about my favorite Metal Gear game, not only my favorite Metal Gear game, but my favorite video game of all time is Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Oh, Ryan.
Yeah.
Oh, Team Snake Eater wins one again.
Yeah, they're chalking another one up for the winning team.
Snake Eater is the New York Yankees of video games.
I come on.
I would say, come on. Like,
that's harsh.
Yeah, that's harsh. It's let's see here, like the true successor. What baseball team would that be? I'm not quite sure, but yeah, it's definitely. I think the Yankees equivalent would be the MGS1. That's like the one that everybody knows about.
Oh,
right?
fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that. That's my favorite game.
It's okay. Hey, it's okay to like the mainstream stuff.
Wow. I'm gonna go. So if it's okay with you, Ryan, I'm interested to get into just like a little bit of portable ops chat.
Oh, please.
And I did my research, and I was a listener to the original interview, so I hope we don't, repeat too much as we have to. But is there like a little overview you could provide? Just because we'll quote it up, but you're the Westernization guy as far as portable ops is concerned. Sort of your words. Any chance you can sort of like give us a little overview from going from a fan to a developer?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a real great honor to talk about portable ops, which I believe that unlike MGS4, I believe gets more popular and there's more reverence for it over the years, which is really exciting for me because I think the team that worked on is greatly deserving of that, and I think it's a great game. And yeah, I was definitely involved in westernizing, quote unquote, that product, including MGS4 and other products that I touched. But more so than just westernization, and portable ops was really my first foray into what I didn't know at the time, but it was into game direction and helping guide the game overall. And that really set my career on a rocket ship after shipping that game. But to answer your question, in terms of trying to set up that game, I mean, there's just so much we could discuss. But let's just start off with, as you all know, that portable ops was an answer to the Metal Gear Acid series. It was an answer to how can we provide the quintessential Metal Gear Solid experience that people are now indicating through their dollars that they want on the PlayStation Portable. And that's where the project started, is that I think Acid 2 failed to live up to sales expectations. And we realized that we had to provide a real true Metal Gear Solid game to the PSP consumer base.
Yeah.
Ryan, what were your thoughts on Acid 1 and 2? Sorry, Warren. I'm just
No, you're good.
I'm curious because like I really like sort of tactical games and I really enjoy card games. So I remember Acid being this weird like, oh, this feels really made for me in a way that feels really, really incredibly niche. And so I was curious, Ryan, as to what your thoughts were on those first two portable games.
Yeah, I think talking about Metal Gear Acid 1 and 2 is really important to get the proper context for portable ops. So yeah, let's talk about it. So I'll start off with just my personal experience with Acid is that I was in Japan. I was buying PSPs anywhere I could find them and then selling them on eBay for cash.
Awesome.
I was one of those guys. I'm sorry, but I was really poor at the time, so please forgive me. And Metal Gear Acid was shipped a few weeks, I want to say, after the PSP came out in Japan. I picked it up because it had Metal Gear on the box. And like you, I'm really into tactical games, but I wasn't expecting that when I put the game put the UMD into my PSP. I was expecting, like I think everybody else, like a quote unquote real Metal Gear experience, right? And once I got into Acid, I thought that, you know what, this is actually pretty good. And it's a good tactical game, but it did leave me a little bit. It's a little bit clunky. And yeah, just it wasn't a game that I would put like in my top 5 games of 2004, for example. But what ended up happening was, and I ended up learning this as I joined Konami. Let's see here, about 7 or 8 months after I had played Metal Gear Acid, I was immediately thrown into Metal Gear Acid 2, which was a few months from shipping. And what I had learned is that Metal Gear Acid sold extremely well. And it would be really stupid for Konami to not follow up with a sequel. And I got to meet Shinta Nojiri, who is the director, and Okuruma-san, who is the producer on the project. And those guys were just going for it because they had like this real fire in their belly because Acid 1 had sold so well and had been received actually pretty well as well, that they're going to come back with like a much bigger and better sequel. And it's a lot bolder, and even like in terms of the color palette, if you remember, is very bold.
Yeah,
right?
It's gorgeous.
And in the marketing was like they have this bright yellow packaging and this like quasi like 3D lenses you could put in and see 3D through the PSP. It was just
I forgot about like it was like Labo pre-Labo. It was like cardboard, Google Cardboard. Yeah.
Right. And by the way, just a reminder, they were doing this all within the span of a year, developing the sequel.
Crazy.
That's it. Less than a year they shipped that. And yeah, they worked so hard on that game. And then it came out and just sales numbers were not there. And I remember that was a really tough and bitter pill for the team to swallow because they had shipped a much better game. But despite the fact that they shipped a better game, it sold far less than the original Metal Gear Acid. And I think what we realized quite early on, and Hideo actually would speak about this to the team, is that they were, with the original Acid game, they were the benefactors of what he would call launch magic. Is that with launch titles for new consoles, people want to buy games to show off the new hardware that they just purchased. And because of the name value, the brand value of Metal Gear, a lot of people bought Metal Gear Acid because it had Metal Gear on the cover. And then they realized that this is probably not for them because they thought it was something completely different. And so, of course, they're not going to buy Acid 2. But we're talking, this is like mid 2000s, right? We don't have deep analytics. We don't have great market research at this time. And so it was actually like a very big strategic misstep, I think, for Konami to focus resources on Acid 2. But again, I think you can understand why they did it, right? And the team, again, I think should be really proud of what they built. But soon after shipping Acid 2, it became very apparent that it's time to take the series in a more traditional direction.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And speaking of that sort of traditional direction, I guess, how it's such a fine balance between like what is asked of somebody and what is feasible. And that's where my mind keeps going to when thinking of like MGS3 on a handheld, right? Because like that's, I think to some extent, that's what everybody wanted, was MGS3 in our pocket, you know?
Yes.
And so I guess my question is, both for the development team and I guess for Konami higher ups who maybe don't understand how much time things take or what's required, and that's anybody, like any TV network or publisher. But I mean, what was it like to be boots on the ground when you found out you had to like replicate this massive console game onto this hardware?
Well, that is why, if it seems, or if it sounds like I'm a little bit flustered today, it's because prior to recording this with you all, I started to dust off some of my old documents related to Portable Ops, and I kept having to double check my math about how many months this team had to build this game, and it just is blowing my mind. Even now, as I'm recording this with you, I can't for the life of me, now knowing what I know about game development, I just cannot believe that this team built this game in under 12 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And they did. And I was there. And it was like, yeah. So when I say the team, like I'm in there, there is an I in team in this situation. And it's just absolutely unbelievable that they pulled this off. And thankfully, there's a number of reasons why they're able to do it, and we could talk about it real quickly. And I guess like
calorie mate and regain. You guys just drank a lot of regain, and you were good to go.
Yeah, there you go. Yes, exactly. And in addition to that, just having the Metal Gear Solid 3 subsistence code base, which they then retrofitted onto the PSP. So that was a great asset, right? The team was able to absorb a lot of animations and just an underlying code to create Portable Ops with that. They were also able to leverage their expertise in the PSP, because by this point, this is the team's third PlayStation Portable game. So those two things combined really helped. But it's still they're talking about creating a mainline Metal Gear Solid game for PSP within 12 months. And they did it. And it's I'm sure we could talk a lot about, and I can share lots of stories about how they did it and all the different struggles we had. But yeah, that was the edict, right? That they had to follow.
And was that just passed down from Konami, or was that something that somebody put together like a design brief for and pitched?
Well, I'll be honest that I wasn't at the initial pitch meeting, although I was on the periphery of it because I would have to communicate a lot of what was going on with the product back to Konami America and Konami Europe. And so I would work very closely with Okamura-san, who was a producer of Portable Ops. And that guy, by the way, I think hardcore fans will recognize his name from Zone of the Enders. He was also, prior to that, also working, I think, on Tokimeki Memorial within Konami proper. And this is a guy that he ships. I have like just absolute mad respect for this gentleman. And he shipped Acid as a more or less launch title for PSP, and then Acid 2 within a year, and then yes, Okamura gets called up to do this game as well, in addition to shipping the 2 digital graphic novels on PSP as well.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Those are all his projects. And so I remember, talking to him that he got like the thumbs up to do this game. And initially, Portable Ops was not called Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. And this is a scoop for you guys. I don't think anybody has ever heard this before. Yes. But the code name, and maybe, I don't know if it was actually being considered for the real title of the game, but it was the acronym for it was MMO, and not in the way that you think, because this is very cheeky Hideo Kojima, but the acronym actually standed for Minna no Metal Gear Online. So like everybody's Metal Gear Online.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
And it was initially pitched as a more traditional Metal Gear Solid 3 type of game with the Metal Gear Solid 3 engine. So still set, in the late 60s, early 70s, but very online focused and very co-op focused. And one of the original ideas that we had was that with other friends, you can play either local co-op or also through online. You kind of relive the history of Metal Gear Solid via boss battles.
That sounds amazing. This sounds like Monster Hunter Metal Gear,
yeah.
And I'm so for it.
Even though you got a Monster Hunter Metal Gear in Peace Walker, but here's another version of it, right? No, totally. And it sounds great, right? But and again, this is not a conversation I was privy to, because I didn't really get really deep into more of the high level decisions until I got a little bit deeper into my tenure at Konami. But very quickly after that, within 2 months, it was decided that there's going to be a main campaign and it was going to be canon. It was going to be a true chapter within the Metal Gear saga. And by February of 2006, so we're talking within 3 months of Acid 2 shipping, there was a completed script.
Holy
Wow.
crap.
Whoa.
And we were starting to localize it, and I was starting to get ready for voiceover work. And in March, so again, 5 months after shipping, still 4 months after shipping Metal Gear Acid 2, I was on a plane with Okamura-san, flying to Australia to meet with Ashley Wood, who was going to be the one, the artist creating the majority of the artwork for the cinematics of the game.
Nice.
Wow, there's really only one speed for your team, huh?
Yeah. It's so, yeah. And so speaking of which, I was, again, a little bit flustered because I was going back over my notes and just like my jaw's just dropping. I can't believe this was actually my life. So I'm looking back at a journal entry that I wrote. And I wrote this on an airplane, it seemed like. And I'm going to read back to you folks something I wrote on April 22nd of 2006.
Nice.
And this is in preparation for the E3 debut trailer for Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops. And I wrote, today was the last day I could do any more tweaking to the trailer. And yada, yada, yada. And what I would do with the trailer is I would go into the recording booth and read it out loud to make sure it made sense. But with all the other craziness for the MGS3 preparation, it wasn't until 3 a.m. when I had time to actually step into the recording studio within Kojima Productions. I flicked on the lights, and I rudely awoke our sound team, who was laid out in sleeping bags after a full day's work of nonstop sound mixing for the Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops debut trailer. I turned off the lights and ran away before anybody could notice who actually did that. Yeah, so that's like just a glimpse into my life.
Wow.
How many years ago now? 15 years ago or so.
That's crazy.
Sure.
Ryan, thank you so much for opening your personal journal to us on this recording.
Oh, you're welcome. This is my pleasure.
Well, I love that it's so near and dear to you. I think so. One way that I want to sort of like at least address Portable Ops, because it does seem to sort of be like the bastard child as far as the canon discussion and things of that nature. And you had talked about reverence and like cult status earlier. Do you think like the design philosophy around like PSP for sort of like short play, right? Like, so you can only play for a little bit because it's in your pocket. So was that game design sort of around it? Does it help like preserve the playability of the game because it's in small bites, or do you think that worked against it?
That's an interesting question. I think because of the portable nature of PSP, I think it forced the team, myself included, to think differently about the design of this game. In other words, we didn't approach the game, and we're very conscious of this. We didn't approach the game as if it was a true sequel to Metal Gear Solid 3 in like the traditional sense that it would have long cutscenes and long sections of gameplay. Because of the portable nature, and we didn't know when the player was going to be interrupted. And so that really, I think, unlocked a lot of great ideas when it came to, I think, being the first Metal Gear game ever to have main missions and then also have optional missions for the players to take on. And so I think we were on the forefront of that. And so, yeah, I think in a lot of ways, it kind of focused us in terms of the design, but also gave us a lot of reasons to try to do something different and experiment. And I think that's why Portable Ops has that level of reverence, is because it's a very experimental Metal Gear Solid title, I think, right? And you could see that its DNA is very much in the subsequent Peace Walker, and then and clearly in Metal Gear Solid 5 as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just blew my mind by saying first Metal Gear game with optional side missions, because I didn't think about it until right now, but like 100%, you're totally right.
Choose your own espionage.
Yeah. And we stole you guys' naming
you,
convention as well. We have extra ops and outer ops on our show, so thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you guys for using it. So, yeah, thank you.
Warren, I was going to say, you using the word preservation actually kind of dislodged a thought in my mind. So it's funny because the last time I was in Seattle, I actually went to, I guess it used to be the EMP. I think now it's just the Pop Culture Museum.
The Mopop, yeah.
Yeah, I was there, and they had this cool like indie game preservation exhibit. But it made me start thinking about like games preservation in general, and especially as things go all digital, the further along we go. it makes me wonder, like, do you think it's a sin as much as I do that this game is like not easy to find or play without original hardware anymore?
I think it's unfortunate, and it's a big part of just the whole topic of game preservation. It's really difficult and tricky. So I would love, obviously, players to be able to get their hands, consumers to be able to get their hands on this game a lot more easily, and hopefully a lot more clarity about the Metal Gear franchise comes into, like, in this new decade, because I think obviously there's a lot of ambiguity about who's shepherding that franchise, like what does Konami want to do with the franchise and the IP. But I'm hoping that one day this is all going to be just a problem of the past. But who knows how long that's going to take?
For sure.
Sure. So Ryan, you mentioned Peace Walker a couple times at this point, and I'm curious, after your time working with Portable Ops and with MGS4, did you have any involvement, or were you approached in any way for the production of Peace Walker? And if not, were there any things from Peace Walker that you would have done differently?
Yeah, so Peace Walker is interesting because for me, because it was the project that the team was shifting towards when I left Konami, and so I have a little bit of I had a little bit of insight in terms of how that project got off the ground, and it actually dovetails really nicely into, if we talk about the legacy of Portable Ops. So I'm just going to rewind time a little bit to help set it up, which is,
please.
So so Portable Ops ships and reviews very well. I was just reading the 9 out of 10 IGN review earlier today just to refresh my brain, and that was one of my proudest moments when that review hit on December 5th, 2006. One of my proudest moments of my whole career, because I worked really hard for that.
Way late congratulations, by the way. 14
Yeah,
years
thank
later.
you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That's so good, man. Just, can't express how happy I was about that. And the launch party, which we'll talk maybe more about another time, was like a big part of my career as well. But the point is that after Portable Ops shipped, it continued to sell very well, especially in Japan. And so during the development of Metal Gear Solid 4, Hideo was getting more and more wrapped up into promotion for Portable Ops, because it had this online mode that, again, was a little more geared towards Japan and was gaining a lot of popularity as the PSP was gaining in popularity, in large part thanks to Monster Hunter. And so what you have Hideo, and sometimes I would join too. We would be going on Shinkansen, on the bullet train, throughout domestic Japan, to different events throughout the early 2007 to help just contribute to these big competitive events for Portable Ops and help promote it. And I think that had a lasting impression on him. And as we saw that but then we had to go dive back down into the development of Metal Gear Solid 4. And so when that game came out, it's shipping in Japan, at least, in a country that has been completely taken over by PSP and Monster Hunter. And you've got developers of MGS4 who are playing Monster Hunter during lunch hours, myself included. And you just can't escape it. And I think that had a profound effect on Hideo and also the Konami staff, just thinking about what the next game should be. And I think that they were, fatigued after MGS4 was such a hard project. So I think it was a natural fit for thinking about the success that Portable Ops had, and then thinking about the team needing to kind of reset a little bit, and then thinking about the fact that PSP and Monster Hunter are so big in Japan, it kind of designed itself in a lot of ways. Sure. So when I left Konami, which was around the late summer, early fall of 2008, Metal Gear Solid 4 had shipped, and there was a lot of talk of doing Portable Ops 2, is what it was referred to internally, and that Hideo would be directing that project, and that there would be a larger co-op element to it, and some Monster Hunter inspired elements as well. So that's kind of where I left, and that was like the early inception of Peace Walker. And then, Tori, to answer your other question about my impressions about Peace Walker and what I felt was perhaps lacking. I mean, overall, I really love that game. It was a pleasure for me to play that game when it came out in 2010, I believe. Talk about another very tight development schedule, and they just created so much content for that. But I have just almost nothing but really positive things to say about that game. If anything, maybe the one I think this is somewhat disappointing thing about it for me is that it kind of pulled some punches, I think, when it came to storytelling, and I know why they did it, and I think also Hideo talked about this publicly, I believe, but the PSP market in Japan was very geared towards teenagers. PSP was a massive hit with junior high and high school kids, basically, and where they would go hang out after school and they would play Monster Hunter together. And it was also their screen. This is before smartphones really took off, right? It was their like portable screen that they could have in their bedrooms, right? They can like swap like pirated movies and just have like they didn't have to share the family TV to play PS2, for example, right? And so it was just it was a product that was very much embraced by junior high and high school kids in Japan, and so subsequently the story of Peace Walker was kind of geared a little bit towards a younger audience, which, as a massive fan, as Tori is, of Metal Gear Solid 3, I think I wanted a little bit more of the big boss story that was
sure,
had a little more hard hitting than I think what we got.
I think everybody wanted that, Ryan.
Yeah, I can't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, back to Portable Ops. As far as Portable Ops Plus goes, how involved were you in the production of that? And was there some kind of give and take as far as working on one versus the other? Or did Portable Ops just kind of naturally transition into some extra bit of content? Or how did that go?
Yeah, Portable Ops Plus is difficult for me, only because I try to stay really positive, but this is a product that I don't have too many positive feelings about.
Oh no.
And
oops.
And no, it's not it's no problem. I'm gonna talk about it regardless, right? I just wanted to be upfront about it because I think the intent behind the game was good, but I just don't think ultimately it was something that was the right decision to focus on for our team following the success of Portable Ops. Had I had the opportunity to go back in time, I would have just convinced everybody to just focus the attention and energy on completing MGS4.
Sure.
Because we just didn't have the resources to make a proper follow-up to Portable Ops, even if it was something like a subsistence like offshoot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I have such complex feelings about it, because you could tell I love Portable Ops, right? But I don't love Portable Ops Plus because it doesn't have a lot of the elements I think is great about the original. And it was just a product that was just really lacking time and resources. And I think it suffered because of it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in a store because I remember I played Acid 1 and 2 when they came out, but it took me some time to get to Portable Ops. And I remember seeing Portable Ops Plus in a store. And my first thought was like, oh, this is Portable Ops plus some additional content. Like this is director's cut Portable Ops or something. And then I remember I bought it and I was like, what is this? Like it was very strange because I remember it was mostly multiplayer focused, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So I remember having to go back and then buy regular Portable Ops instead because I was very confused.
Thank you for your support. And that was like one of many problems I think with that product, right? Is that had it been what I had thought it was when I first heard about it, just the same as you, right? Mm-hmm. Had it been a subsistence version of Portable Ops, I would have been all about it because I had a laundry list of things I wanted to do with Portable Ops that we weren't able to do because of time. I think we would have made a much better product, and that would have been really great. But instead, we got a product that was built by a very small team that had very few resources. And yes, it was very focused on the online multiplayer aspect of it. And again, I think fits nicely into this narrative that I've been sharing about the state of Japan and PSP and multiplayer. And so, in many ways, I think Portable Ops Plus was a title more geared towards that audience than it was European or North American players, right? So I think more geared towards the campaign, right, of Portable Ops.
Right.
Yeah. Do you happen to have any memory of? You say there was like this short development schedule, which again, a year to do anything seems like not enough time. Do you have any remembrance of any like wild ideas that you did pitch or maybe were sort of on the cutting room floor that you would have liked to have seen in Portable Ops Plus?
Well, I might have to take that as some homework,
Oh no.
which is a good thing. I'll have to go back and look. I might have written up documents. I did that stuff all the time, knowing that, especially as a younger team member and fairly inexperienced, that oftentimes those ideas would get just thrown into the trash. But by this point, I had some level of clout, so I have to imagine I did write up some notes. So I'll go back and see if I can find them.
Ryan, I was going to ask, so just to kind of reiterate, and I'm speaking a little bit from a weird place of not knowing because we haven't recorded the intro yet, but since we're going to be doing like sort of the MPO journey with Ryan Payton, if somebody were to listen to this before they start playing along with us for the coverage of the season, what would you say to them as far as like, I don't know, like if you saw some kid picking the game case up off of a trapped in resin GameStop that still exists, like what would you say to this hypothetical child as far as like recommendations, warnings, preamble, context?
Yeah, that's basically what I would say is that if you loved and appreciated the Pokemon-inspired capture mechanics of Peace Walker and or Metal Gear Solid 5, you're in for a treat because you're going to see a very, in a lot of ways, academic exploration of that mechanic through its inception via Portable Ops. That is where that idea came from. And I think it's a very beautiful idea because it fits in so nicely with the Big Boss story that Metal Gear fans have heard about for so long prior to this, to the release of this game. They heard that Big Boss created Outer Heaven. They heard that Big Boss had created like this private army nation, right? But you never get to see how he does it and the mechanics, the true mechanics behind assembling an army. And that's what you get to get a glimpse of in Portable Ops. And then it really kind of becomes the thing, right, in Metal Gear Solid 5. But yeah, with Portable Ops, you get to see like the inception of that idea. And I think it's executed extremely well. The other thing I'll say is that I'm sorry that player in 2020 or 2021 can experience what it was like to play Portable Ops back when it was released in 2006. And the reason why I apologize, and not that it's anybody's fault really, but that is because there was a magic to playing that game on PSP in Japan and also outside of Japan because of the hotspot feature that you could recruit amazing soldiers to your group by just turning on the Wi-Fi signal of your PSP and just via like these random codes of these different Wi-Fi networks, it generating all these different interesting or terrible soldiers that you can recruit into your team.
That sounds like a fun
in Japan,
gamble.
we had, what's that?
I'm sorry, that sounds like a fun gamble.
It was so fun. It was so addicting, right? Because you're just running around. But again, in the States, it was a little bit difficult because, the country's a lot more spread out. But in Japan, we would have campaigns where you could go to a specific restaurant or like it's Tsutaya, I think, like electronics store. And if you try to scan its Wi-Fi signal, you would get like a special Portable Ops recruit. And there was a lot of that kind of fun, emergent, very, I don't know, like
proto Pokemon Go.
Yeah,
very proto Pokemon Go, and it was just so exciting. So yeah, I wish that players these days could have really experienced that to the level that we were able to do back in 2006. But yeah.
Ryan, what are your thoughts ethically on the game mechanic of capturing people against their will and forcing them to join your team? It's a fun mechanic, but I think Portable Ops, Peace Walker, and 5 often have me questioning like how this plays morally into the game.
Yeah, it's funny. As somebody who's often thinking about those kinds of things, I don't think that's ever really crossed my mind. I mean, other than hey, that's Snake, and he does a lot of morally objective things.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought you were going into what's the efficacy of putting players through having to crawl, like grab and drag these like NPC soldiers all the way back to that truck.
I'm so glad that you brought it up. I've been meaning to not bring it up, but now we've got court that we got to hold.
That was painful for even developers, which is why I fought so hard for this feature to allow players to use a cardboard box and then use your codec to call in Fulleton type of system, right? Where you can just collect the soldiers while they're still on the battlefield, as opposed to dragging their sorry asses all the way to the truck so far away. Because that was getting very tiresome, even during development.
I have to give you a very large personal thank you then, because once I discovered that was an option, I have not looked back. I'm like strategizing, okay, where am I going to hide Snake now so that I can just drag this guy back to the next box?
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you fought for that. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. It was something that, I had to spend some of my social capital points on that one for sure. Because the team was just, as you can imagine, just crunching so hard to ship that game. But I was like, we can't ship with this as is. We just can't.
How cool would it have been to be in a time machine and be like, let's just make Skullface's squad be the guys who pick up everyone.
Yeah.
That way he's got motivation for his anger in 5.
Yeah, it would just be, knowing what we know now, right? It would just make things so much easier, which is part of the fun. I mean, we talked about maybe kind of bring the conversation back. It's like we're talking about the fun, scary, frustrating, exciting aspect of working in nascent technology like VR, and very much so the same thing was going with the PSP, right? We felt like we were solving a lot of new problems, and that was really exciting for us, even though it was the third Metal Gear game for PSP.
That's awesome. That's interesting that you bring that up. We actually had a listener ask what some of the notable struggles were and how you guys solved those problems. So it sounds like, which big ups to Alex. Thank you, Alex, for that listener question. But hopefully it sounds like we answered most of it.
Oh, there's so many other struggles that maybe we can save for another conversation. But I'm off the top of my head, I think a struggle that we avoided, how about this, is as you all know, big part of the legacy of Metal Gear Solid is those real-time cinematics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the prospect of building this game within 1 year and also doing Kojima Productions level quality cinematics was just out of the question, right? Which is, again, why we tapped Ashley Wood on the shoulder. And then we worked with an outside group in Tokyo called Spooky. I think they also worked on Peace Walker as well. They also did some of the 2D flash-like sequences in Metal Gear Solid 4 as well for some of those longer exposition moments. And they did all those motion graphics for Portable Ops. So it was really a combination of Spooky, myself, Ashley Wood, and then and Okamura-san, just making sure that the dev team only had to focus on the moment-to-moment gameplay of Portable Ops, while we handled all like the connective storytelling tissue.
Were you responsible for 70s or late 60s era Colonel Campbell? Pre-Colonel?
No,
Mullet
that was written in. Yeah, Mullet Campbell. I was delighted when I heard that he was going to be in the game. I was really happy about that. That was fun. But no, I wasn't part of that. But that was a very early on decision about it was going to be set 6 years after, 6 or 7 years I think after Snake Eater. And we were going to tell the story about what happens right after everything with the Philosopher's Legacy and everything. And again, as a massive fan for Snake Eater, I just had to keep pinching myself, like, how the hell does a kid from suburban Washington State grow up playing Metal Gear Solid 1 in high school, then find himself in a fishing village teaching English, playing Metal Gear Solid 3, hating his life kind of, but also loving this game and thinking it's the best thing he's ever played. And then like literally within a year of that time frame, I'm working at Konami, working on a direct sequel to MGS3.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's just out of control.
Yeah, I this will be the last. I feel like I've been monopolizing my question time, but I just want to ask one more thing. And anybody who's listening who has yet to play Portable Ops, plug your ears for a spoiler for like 2 minutes. But like, if I remember correctly, Portable Ops contains the bombshell that reveals that Sigint is the DARPA chief. I think in the script in one of the codec calls. So it's just crazy to me that you started playing Metal Gear Solid 1, and then lo and behold, full circle, you find out all this crazy canon within this game that you ended up working on. So amazing.
Yeah, no, totally. And you can just imagine when I'm starting to hear about the stuff and I'm getting my hands on the Japanese script and I'm reading through it. I'm thinking, I'm just like the fans at that point. It's amazing opportunity to be given. But I have to be upfront that like some of that stuff obviously was created for the sake of that game, and also we would do the same thing with Metal Gear Solid 4 because we didn't, obviously, like Hideo hadn't laid out exactly how the Metal Gear Saga was going to work back in 1998, and so part of filling in those blanks was really fun, but also extremely challenging, right? Because maybe this is another conversation for next time, is it's very difficult to create canon stories with that, like within an already complicated and complex narrative, right? And so some things get stomped on, and some things become like there's some contradictions that come up. And I know that that's been a big topic of discussion related to Portable Ops' story in particular.
So Ryan, you were talking about having the script, basically being a fan, just like us. When it came to like the early days of the game itself and the development, as far as like the team composition, things like that, do you have any insight you'd want to share as far as that, outside of just being a fan with the script and westernizing the game?
Sure. So the development team for Portable Ops was literally in the corner of the studio, Evolve Kojima Productions, and so basically what you have is 80% of the 12th floor of Roppongi Hills at the time was Metal Gear Solid 4. And then you've got 10% Boktai DS, which would eventually become Lunar Knights, which was actually it ended up growing into a fairly substantially sized team, which I don't think Hideo was super thrilled about, but we had to. It was a big game, and it just kept becoming bigger and bigger. A lot of content in that game. And then the remaining 10% is the PSP team, which goes from Acid to Acid 2, then to Portable Ops. And I got to know those guys really well over the releases. And generally speaking, a fairly young team, very capable and like very flexible team, and also like extremely appreciative, because as you can imagine, when you're like literally in the corner of the development floor of Metal Gear Solid 4, which is sucking up all the air, right? All the attention, all the budget, all the anticipation. These guys are just like scrapping to get like resources and help. And so it was really great when a MGS4 developer would show up and help them with a UI element, or when Yoji Shinkawa would sketch like a character design for us for Portable Ops, or when Hideo would check the script, or when we could get a build using like that really difficult and hard to manage dev kit for the PSP, getting that in front of Hideo so we can actually play the game. And I think the team was just always so appreciative, because again, they knew that Portable Ops wasn't the top priority for that studio. And I think that was definitely part of that ethos. I'll also say, and I want to be careful about this one just out of respect, is that there was, at least one person on the team that just worked so hard that they've definitely experienced burnout. And I got to witness that firsthand, what that can do to somebody. And his difficulties and his struggles, in a very sad way, end up becoming my opportunity, because as development of that game just churned on, and that that extremely aggressive deadline was on the horizon, the team was lacking direction, and they're just lacking bodies, right, to work on the game and input. And there was just nobody. There was not even anybody who had time to play the darn thing. And I think this is where I'm sadly like retreading some of my old stories, but that's the opportunity that I had to actually get my hands on the game and play it every night. And then by the time they came into the office the next morning, that team had notes, and nobody asked me to do it. It was me and the audio director for Metal Gear Solid 4, Tojima-san. We would just do that every night. And again, I think the team really appreciated that, in part because they were losing some team members just due to fatigue. But I was, 26, 27 years old, full of energy, super excited to be working on Metal Gear. I didn't just I was just fueled by coffee. And I also moved. I moved my apartment into the very expensive district of Japan. Spent almost half of my rent on the half of my paycheck on the rent, just so I could live next to the studio, so I could just crash there at 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning, doesn't matter. Sleep there, take a shower, go back to work. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to work. So yeah, it wasn't for everybody. It wasn't for him, obviously, and I still feel bad about that guy. But yeah, that's like definitely there's a story about the development team for Portable Ops.
That's crazy. How I'm curious how now that I've been working in network TV for the last year and a half, how did they prioritize your notes versus notes from were there other notes? Were there like daily, weekly notes, or were they just Ryan Payton's notes are pulling us through the development?
Well, so here's the thing. Okay, so yeah, I was kind of holding back, but I'll expand upon it just a little bit, which is nobody's playing the game.
Oh my
God. They're busy working on it, right? And I look, and yeah, it sounds ridiculous, but now that I have so many years under development under my belt, I understand, right? It's really hard to find time to play the game, even as developers. And so I'm downloading a build every night. I'm finishing my MGS4 work at around 10 p.m. and I go get a coffee at Starbucks right before they close, and I come back upstairs and I'm juiced. I'm ready to go. And I'm playing through as much of Portable Ops as I can every single night and taking notes. So then when the team would come back in the next morning, there wasn't competing notes. It was just my notes.
Oh my God.
And I wasn't doing it because nobody asked me to do this. I just wanted to help, basically. And I was giving notes like in language that was not mean by any stretch, but it wasn't like a director style note. I mean, it wasn't in the as in the voice of the director, but they were very director like notes. It was basically, hey guys, what you guys did at this boss battle last night is rad. Can you do more of this? Or like, if you did more of this would be really cool. Or guys, I still hate dragging recruits to the truck. Yeah. And I would just put that into my notes every night.
General most common note.
General notes. It's still in here. It's still in. So basically what would happen though, and I didn't know this at the time, is that the team would wake up, or they would come into the office, about 9-10 o'clock in the morning, and they end up just like the producer Okamura-san would just send those notes out to the team, and he would he would prioritize them. I didn't know he was doing this, and that was basically the direction for the team.
That's awesome.
That is
and
excellent.
So then what ended up happening was that went on for weeks, if not months, and then I had to go to LA for an MGS4 related thing, and I remember coming back. And Okamura said something to the effect of, "You've been sending notes." I can't remember. I remember feeling in trouble. I can't remember the full story. But I remember feeling in trouble, like, "Oh, you're sending notes to the team" or something like that. But he knew. So again, I can't remember the full story. But basically, I thought I was in trouble, and I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he said, "No. Where are your notes?" And I was like, "Well, I was on a business trip." He's like, "Don't stop. Like the team. This is what is driving the team now." And I said, "Oh. Okay, I won't stop." And so I just, I kept right when I got back, I just kept doing it. And that was really fueling the project through all the way to the end. And it became as much that I now have an intimate knowledge of the game because I'm playing it every night. Right. And so now I'm seeing the impending November release date coming.
Oh boy.
Because we need to ship this game before Black Friday for sales reasons. But I'm seeing that the game's not ready. And we need 2 more weeks. And so I end up I fly to San Francisco to convince Konami America to give us 2 more weeks. Sorry, you're not going to hit Black Friday, but I promise you, if you give us 2 more weeks, the game's going to be all that much better. And sure enough, the game ships 2 weeks later, I think on December 5th, if that's right, on 2006, with like really, really, really strong reviews. And again, I think I only credit my ability to do that because I was so intimately familiar with the game because I was doing those notes every night.
That's excellent.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good on you, Ryan. I think I very much so said that that was incredibly impressive the last time we spoke, but it is equally still impressive all this time later. I love it.
Oh, thanks. I mean, I'm so glad I did it, right? Because like I said, I put my career on a rocket ship. Because the code of the story that everybody knows is that at the Metal Gear Solid Portable Ops launch party, Hideo walked up to me and said, "I heard what you did on Portable Ops. I want you to do the same thing for MGS4."
Oh man, that's wild.
That was it.
What a feeling.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So, Ryan, when trying to westernize a game, did you find any particular aspects that just did not translate to an Eastern developer? Did you find in the case of Portable Ops that there were mechanics or ideas that seemed purely for Eastern audiences? Was anything plot-related left on the cutting room floor due to this?
Yeah, there was a lot of that stuff, actually. I had to really walk this tightrope between not treading too much into what makes Metal Gear unique and its Japaneseness, right? If that's a word.
Sure.
That needs to be preserved. This is a Japanese perspective on espionage action, right? And that needs to be preserved. But when there's like embarrassing uses of English, or if there are really different and archaic uses of mechanics or controls, that's where I would kind of come in, right? And try to move that team over into more of a quote unquote Western direction. And I think, it's important for me to bring this up, and I've never really talked about this before, but I think it's time for me to bring it up, which is that back in the mid to late 2000s, the Japanese game industry was not in a good place. And I was actually just talking to the former CEO of Square Enix, Wada-san, about this just like 2 months ago. Is that and he was looking back into that time frame as well. Leading up into the release of PS3 and Xbox 360, Japan was still doing really well. Great games coming out of Japan for consoles. And then GTA, Assassin's Creed, BioShock, Gears of War, Halo, and many other games hit, and really started to show the Japanese developers that they're falling behind. And the game industry within Japan as well is not embracing modern console gaming as much as the West is, right? So when we talk about me like westernizing the game, it was really, in a sense, it's more about me making it more modern console-alized, if you will, to make up another word. Now, since then, and this is like a really happy story, is that the Japanese developers ended up, splashing cold water on their faces and realizing they had to change the way they develop games. They had to change the way that they research games. They have to show a little bit more reverence to what was happening in the West. And now these Japanese developers are, and it's been this way for a while now, are just as capable, right, as any other developers in the world. And so these kinds of efforts that I had to do, I think, are less important now because Japanese developers are definitely embracing more about modern console sensibilities. You look at a game like Breath of the Wild, right, which is so forward thinking and so smart and so modern, and that clearly that team in Kyoto within Nintendo was watching very closely and playing Skyrim and all the rest, right? Where again, that was not an effort that was being made within Kojima Productions in mid 2000s. Aside from me and a handful of other individuals, only me and a handful of individuals were playing the big console games coming out of the West. And if we did not adapt Metal Gear Solid 4 to this larger console ecosystem and what players expect, then our sales would have suffered. The Metal Gear Solid series would have suffered. But then you could see the team really embracing it with like MGS5, I think, is a very modern feeling game. And so they definitely embrace that quote unquote westernization. But again, it's more about just like like making the game more console friendly than it really is about just like non-Japanese sensibilities, if that makes sense.
I think of that super iconic, I guess notorious is a better word, the infamous Phil Fish quote from the mid to late 2000s where he essentially called all Japanese developers like bullshit, for lack of a better term, like at the time, because it was in that pocket of like or I guess like post 7th gen or early 7th gen development woes, where we were seeing all of the sort of I don't know, growing pains Japanese games, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. You're totally right. Yeah, I remember that quote. I think that really hit Japanese developers hard. I remember hearing, you're just having me remember all sorts of stuff. I remember some developers in Japan being extremely upset about that Phil Fish quote. And to be fair, I don't know him personally, and I know he's grown since then too.
Right.
It's just it shows a lack of respect. He's not wrong that the Japanese developers were falling behind, but there's more effective ways of doing that, right? Or I guess more respectful ways. Maybe not as effective, because it clearly was effective, because there was a lot of Japanese developers that ended up being appreciative of somebody speaking up and saying, basically, you guys are messing up.
Yeah.
Get your place, your home in order, right?
Yeah, I think he was speaking specifically to Inafune, the Mega Man developer. I'm totally butchering but yeah, because I know that they went on a whole, like, I don't know, there was a whole horrible story of like post Mega Man and Inafune stuff, but yeah,
absolutely, yeah. I remember that. I can't remember who it was, but I remember specifically sitting down with a Japanese developer who was thankful. As painful as it was thankful of hearing that message.
That's crazy. I can't even imagine what a Deadly Premonition feeling version of MGS4 would have been like.
Oh no.
Yeah, you don't want to play that. Yeah, and even like Snake Eater, I find is hard to play. I have to play the subsistence version.
Totally.
Yeah, we sort of hashed that out on our MGS3 season. That camera was real rough until that subsistence version.
Yeah, speaking about that real briefly, I'm if you don't mind, is that one of the first memories I have as an employee of Konami was walking within the halls of Kojima Productions, and that was around the time that we were wrapping up development of Subsistence. And I remember asking, why are all these artists still working on Snake Eater? And why aren't they on MGS4? And they said, because now of the 3D with the 3D camera, the player can see all these areas that we didn't expect them to see in the world, and now we have to fill it out. I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And so, that you just reminded me of that when you mentioned the camera.
That's awesome.
So, Ryan, we have one final listener question.
Sure.
So what, if anything, have you been tapped for as far as westernizing games goes outside of the Metal Gear series? And if you've done any more of that kind of work with other games, how did those experiences compare?
Well, I've done it a handful of times. One that comes to mind is that I actually, not to the degree I did on Portable Ops, but I did have a guiding hand on No More Heroes.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Because I befriended Goichi Suda while I was at Konami. And during the Metal Gear Solid 4 development, again, I'm a kid. I don't know how I did this without sleep. I would wrap up at Konami with Hideo's permission. I would take a train to Grasshopper. I would show up there before like midnight, and then I would play No More Heroes. And I would sit down with like their team and say like, oh, this is like, doesn't feel good, or like, ooh, I wouldn't do this, or like, ooh, this is really cool, I would amplify this. And I was helping them with like some script stuff. Actually, I helped out with the script a lot. In fact, I translated a lot of No More Heroes.
Oh wow!
And I helped guide a lot of the voiceover direction or the voiceover planning for that. So that's one game.
Are you responsible for the line "fuckhead" at the beginning of No More Heroes?
No, that was I think that was like in katakana. I think I wanted that. But I am responsible for the Duke Nukem Forever quote.
Oh, very nice.
In that series. So I did that game. Let's see what else.
That's crazy. How did you? I'm getting an ulcer just thinking about your sleeping schedule, and I sleep like 4 hours a night, so I have no idea.
Oh, that's not good, man. That's not good.
You can't speak to that, Ryan. Come on.
Oh no, I can't. No, I can now that I've read this book called Why We Sleep from Matthew Walker.
Okay.
And highly recommended that your listeners check that book out.
I thought you could recommend that they sleep. Highly recommended that your listeners
and
sleep.
if you once you read that book, you will want to sleep more. I'm terrified. And actually Bill Gates talks about this because it was one of his most recommended books a few years back. Mm-hmm. He talks about how terrifying it is to think about what you've potentially done to your body through through sleep deprivation, about how unhealthy it is and how we might have shaved years off of our lives.
Oh my God.
We have, for those of you like me and you who actively like reduced our sleeping schedule for work or for whatever reasons, greater chances for cancer, greater likelihood for obesity, greater likelihood of losing memories, less creativity. All that, like, it's an incredible book backed by an amazing amount of research, and it makes me think back to my days working on Konami, thinking, and then I also did it on Halo as well, where I would only sleep 4 or 5, maybe 6 hours a night because I was so excited and I just wanted to work more. And now I'm trying to be very actively conscious about the amount of hours I'm sleeping to try to be actually more effective. Sorry for this crazy tangent.
No, you're totally
My
fine.
team has to hear me talk about this garbage. You guys are now subjected to it because I'm on holiday break, so I can't talk about this book in front of my team. But there you go. But yeah, that was so. Back to westernizing games. I think, again, I don't like to use that word anymore because it's more about just like modernizing them or just making them more just better, honestly. I did the same thing for Shenmue 3. And
right.
For your listeners who are curious about that story, I actually did a recent interview with Shenmue Dojo, and I talked specifically about the struggles I had sitting down with Yu Suzuki on a monthly basis, going through his game and just like saying, dude, no. You can't do that. No, you can't do that. No, not anymore. It's not 2001.
Yeah.
It's 2019, 2018. We got to do it this way, man. Come on. I did a lot of work on Shenmue 3.
That's crazy. Well, Ryan, thank you so much. Always. I feel like every time I talk to you, I walk away informed, entertained, and this evening terrified to my core. And
oh yeah, sorry about that.
And no, I really appreciate you taking the time to hop on the show. Obviously, we'll flesh this out a bit more, but it sounds like there may be a trilogy of the Payton tapes coming.
Yes.
So hopefully we can circle up. And I think our goal for the second and third discussions for Portable Ops is to really make them more of like historical documentation and discussing sort of all of the development ins and outs. Because I mean, candidly speaking, like, and this is something that we're going to be kind of revealing now that I'm back more involved with the show again.
Mm-hmm.
But documenting the history of the actual behind the scenes of Metal Gear is pretty much, it's everything for me. It is why I care about this podcast.
I love it.
And it's so difficult because outside of, so I mean, at this point, so we're talking actually to Peter Lorre in a couple days, who did Vulcan Raven for MGS1, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah.
But outside of Chris Zimmerman and all of the voice talent, very rarely do we get to talk to any development people because they're all Japanese. And obviously, I think it would be really difficult to have like an interpreter on a podcast.
Yeah.
And so I think having you and obviously I've reached back out to Sean Eyestone and a couple other people, but I think just having you as a resource and having you be as open as you've been and as candid as you've been on this podcast, I mean, it's been immensely helpful because you're providing like a level of depth that honestly, outside of your perspective, the show never would have.
Well, thank you. And I commend your efforts because I think not that just general discussions about this game is not valuable. I think it's incredibly valuable, and I really appreciate the work you all do. I think preserving that history is such an important effort, and I agree with you. And I think especially when it comes to Metal Gear, because again, like as we all know, it's in this very ambiguous state. And I think again, like I don't think Konami even knows what it wants to do with it. So in the meantime, it's really hard. It's really hard to preserve this stuff when like the purveyors of the IP is a little bit in limbo right now about what they want to do. So I appreciate the work you're doing, and if I could be of any service, please let me know, including talking to Japanese developers. I don't want to overpromise, but I spend a decent amount of time in Japan, and I love touching base with old friends. I'm more than happy to help translate and make sure that that's a valuable resource for you and the community.
That would be incredible.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much.
I will definitely not refuse that if it is available.
Just a walk-up grand slam. Thank you, Ryan.
No, it's my pleasure.
Nice. Well, cool. So I guess before we sign off, Ryan, if you have anything you want to tease for subsequent Portable Ops episodes, by all means, but also don't feel pressure to dig anything up. But I just thought it might be fun to tease what might be coming next in the history of Portable Ops.
Yes. So next time Ryan Payton talks and rambles about Portable Ops, part 2 will be we'll talk about the origins of the name of Portable Ops and the extremely potentially controversial origin story of that. We will talk about the canon and whether or not this game is true canon or not, and hopefully have like a really good and open discussion about that, because I think it's a really interesting topic. And lastly, I will go and see if I actually have any notes about what a Portable Ops Plus subsistence version would look like. and I'll share those notes. But again, but in exchange, I would definitely love the opportunity to hear what you all think and your listeners think about portable ops as you're playing through the games. And if you have specific questions, because for me, now that we're, I don't know, 14 years on, I'm forgetting some of the particulars of that game. So if there's certain elements of it that you're wondering about, and if I can add any kind of insight or perspective, I'd love to do that.
That's amazing. Thank
you.
you.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, fantastic tease as well. Yeah, and I will say too, I think moving forward, like we wanted this to sort of be like interview pickup day, but I think moving forward with the subsequent episodes will probably be far more kind of free form jazz with our discussion, just primarily focused around portable ops. So
Great.
Everybody be excited for that.
Yeah.
So.
I know I
Please
am.
be excited.
But yeah, awesome. Thank you, Ryan. That's amazing. And we will very much so look forward to the next discussion.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.